Hey everybody, y'all good?
Big crowd.
It's so crowded in here for the people on the video. It's thousands, so many hundreds of thousands of people.
It's a niche audience.
Yeah, it's yeah, yeah. It's getting toward the end of the day, and people are doing meetings and doing what they do. But we know this is also on video, and the rewatch will be through the roof. So we'll just go ahead and get started. Thank you everyone for coming. This panel is going to be amazing. We're talking about monetizing niche audiences, and we'll go over strategies for growth. So my name is Terrence, Terrence Thames. I'm a business owner of a media marketing agency named Coco Creative, but I'm also a professor at Iowa State University. And yes, there are people from Iowa here, which is great. Yes, two of us. And yeah, this is going to be a really, really great panel talking about how to make money in this space, especially if you are a creator, especially if you are catering to a niche audience. And so we're going to have great discussion. I can already tell that the Q&A is going to be popping. It's going to be popping from the back to the front. And so, yes. And so first, we'll start with, if everyone could introduce themselves. We'll start with you and just go right down the line.
Sure. Hi, my name is Rebecca Avery. I'm the founder and principal of Integration Therapy. So I do revenue containment, meaning I tighten operations for streaming networks as they get ready for transformation or hypergrowth. My background is in content operations. I have a very robust startup history as well.
Rashaun Hall. I am the VP of Streaming and Partnerships for Fuse Media. Fuse is a Latino-owned global entertainment company that is both in the pay TV space as well as FAST and SVOD.
I'm Shamroc Peterson. I'm the founder and CEO of Diverseego, the first streaming television network for Black and Latinos. All the content is created by Black and Latinos.
Awesome. This is great. Okay, first we're going to talk about kind of big picture. So first question, what does niche really mean in 2025? In your view, we'll just kind of go down the line. What's the threshold when it comes to kind of a niche channel, and can something be too narrow when you talk about niche? So we'll start with you and we'll go down the line.
I actually think niche isn't so much defined by the size of the audience or by the monetization prospect. I think it's defined by audience culture. I think it differs from category in a really important way that it is actually kind of defined by the passion of the viewer. For instance, like there's a lot of, and this is something I've actually been looking into, there's a lot of like automotive channels, right? And they might show F1 and then off-roading and then giant trucks. But the truth is there are passionate cultures, I'm from Moab, Utah, I know, that are just for rock crawling. And I keep thinking, like, why aren't more people launching rock crawling content? Because that's huge. But that is a niche. And I think a lot of the reason that some of the larger companies are a little bit shy to lean into niche is because it feels very small. But if you look at it as a monetization play rather than an engagement play, it makes a lot more sense as a business.
That's good.
No, for me, I think niche is, a dedicated audience that is interested in a particular type of content or a particular subject matter. So for our company, yes, those niches tend to be based on demographics, but there is also a lot of overlap in those demographics. So you can be Black and you could be Afro-Latino, which is Black and Latino. You could be, any number of things that find you at this intersection of two different cultures or content or interests, or you could, also subject matter. I'm into whiskey. So there is a ton of whiskey content, a ton of spirits content for people who are just into that. Now, I can talk all day about it, but then my wife can't stand that. So there is a world where each of those categories or that content or that subject matter, like you said, even in car culture, there is people who watch F1 and they only watch F1 and they're not into NASCAR, and there are people who are into classic cars, though they're even sub-niches in a niche category. So.
Shamroc, how about you?
How are you going to say everything I need to say? That's the perfect example about niche or niche, whatever you want to say it. I've been trying to figure out which way we're going to say this, but I love it. That's just the funny part about it is that we service Black and Latinos, but there is multicultural. Multicultural can be all over a long space where Black and Latinos, as you were saying, that there's different types of Blacks. There's different, versions of Blacks, meaning that, you have people that within the Latino space, especially, like you said, the Afro-Latino space, there's people from various different countries that are Latino countries. So we realize that for us, it's really kind of servicing that community of just the Black and Latino, not such a broad stroke on the multicultural perspective. For us, it's just focusing on that. And we found that can bring a lot of success if you stay in that lane, versus the larger multicultural space, which has so many different facets of it being multicultural.
Yeah. So to piggyback off of that, and I love how you define that. How do you decide which niche, and I'll say niche because it rhymes with rich, but
I like that one.
Yeah, that's right.
Niche from now on.
That's right. But how do you decide which niche or niche to serve, and also what signals are each of you using or are you consulting on to help people validate that niche before they fully commit to leaning in and, again, eventually monetizing? So I know you started with that, but we'll start with you again and then come back the opposite way.
I think it's for us just really taking the time to understand the community or culture that we're servicing. You have to take that time. I think there's enough data out now that you can see and kind of see where and who it skews to. For us, we service a certain type of age group that is best suited for us. We also then look at communities of that Black or Latino where they're serviced. For us, we don't just kind of look at the entire world, we look at specific areas. So for us, it's more focused on the U.S. because we realize that the U.S. Black or Latino is different than the European Black or Latino. Right. So those are how we look at specifics on who we're going to service and how we're going to service them, then breaking it down to age groups, spending habits, all that, and then kind of looking at our type of person that we want to serve or community that we want to serve and then go after that aggressively.
That's great. Yeah.
I think for us, audiences are come through a combination of things. I say first, it's the audience that we know. Who are we? Fuse is Latino owned. It started as 2 different English language Latino focused pay TV channels. Then there was also Fuse, which is a music video network. So that is what we know that we are a diverse owned company. So obviously that Latino lane is the first lane we're going to go down, English language Latino. As a result of over the years of content that we're making, they also saw that we had a very large African American audience or Black audience, probably a better term. So then it was like, all right, how do we start to create more content and lean into providing content and content experiences that speak to that audience? Additionally, we know there's a lot of intersection between those communities. So where are those intersections meet, and what other audiences that are not being served? So the LGBTQIA then came next. We have been for a while looking at how do we get into AAPI, but you have to be able to do it authentically. So I think it's again, it's where you started from. What you see is working for you. And then I think the third thing is where are the opportunities? If you look at, when we got into the fast space, that was the glaring thing that we saw. There was not a lot of diverse, we go back and forth. We don't necessarily use the word multicultural. It's like, where's the diverse or where the underserved audiences, and how do you get the platform to understand that there is a lot of money there, there's a lot of eyeballs there, and how do you get them to buy into you bringing that kind of different content, which made it work in the very early days of fast because we had that content and we brought it with a understanding of traditional TV programming to the fast space.
What you?
Yeah, I think you almost kind of touched a nerve with me about the market research because I don't think that that's been done enough. I think the reason that there are so many people that are launching Black and Latino, another one that's Black factual that actually talks about how Aesop was Black. And yours and his are 4 different audiences. And I think that you have had the playing field cleared to be able to launch companies like this because the large players said, hey, I think that we should try to reach the Latino audience. Let's take all of our content and put Spanish subtitles on it and launch it as a channel. And then when that didn't work, they went, oh, this doesn't work, and they just took it down. And they just left all of this open space, which is very unfortunate because what's happened is there is so much space for people to create content that we have actually outgrown as an industry the idea of creating vanilla content and just expecting everybody to watch it. You have to go niche if you want an audience that's going to stick. And that's what you want to look for. You want to do a deep research. So if you're doing like my off-roading example, you want to know how much people are spending on off-roading everything per year. How much do they love it that they're putting their bucks next to it? And then if you are somebody who's trying to watch multiple channels, what else do people who do off-roading like? To try to get them to watch a whole bundle, which, you know, if you're lucky enough to get to launch with that model.
So you're looking at really the monetary responses as validation, but also the authenticity to the audience as for data with that to help validate.
I mean, your bait is the authenticity. That it's basically a product market fit, just like any other company. You keep putting the product out there until you get the right signals, and then you double down.
No, that's good. That's good. So as we talk about kind of the niching, how, and this is more for you, Rashaun, what lessons have you learned about how to kind of cut through noise, right? There are a lot of, as you talked about, a lot of people who are launching fast channels and different niche audiences, but what lessons have you learned with that?
It's difficult. It's gotten more and more difficult as the major studios have come into the space. So again, it is that authenticity. It is, what do you bring? You know, yeah, if we're not going to bring 1,000 hours of Law and Order, what do you bring that is different to the party, that is unique? You know, so we've done some on our Fast Channel. We've done some live events or live to tape events or specials. We look for what are cultural moments that our channels or we as a brand can authentically speak to. So Juneteenth comes around, yes. Every number of channels or platforms are going to do, they're going to do marketing around Juneteenth, but it's going to be, oh, these 4 or 5 black movies that, you know, speak to that moment. What we do differently is we had a Juneteenth live special that we worked with a foundation on. They shot the special. We brought it to, again, it is, what is that key differentiator? Again, authenticity and leaning into those specifics. You know, I keep talking about cultural dynamic audiences, but I think there's also, when you get into, what is any kind of passionate audience? I've been talking all day to people about football and NFL. That is a passionate audience that, you know, even down to the individual teams. So how do you find moments that speak to those teams or speak to speak to that fandom in a way that is authentic? Because yes, you can absolutely just throw on any number of NFL games, but if you don't curate that experience, that's another thing that our programming team is really focused on, and with the help of our research team, looking at the best way to curate those experiences so it authentically speaks to that audience at a given time.
Nice. I like the part around you mixing in even live event experiences with content, right? So many content creators may already have an audience, already doing these in-person experiences, but to take that and use that as content and make it relevant, whether you live stream, repackage it, use it throughout the year, I think is super, super dope.
Actually, and we talked about this off stage. One of the other things again is understanding a niche audience based on creators. So you mentioned creators. So we just recently did a deal with Kev on Stage. He's a well-known stand-up comedian and he writes skits, etc. He had a SVOD service several years back. Obviously, the economics are very difficult, especially when he was as early as he was in the space. We recently did a deal where we licensed all of his SVOD content and brought it to Fuse Plus, our SVOD service. And again, that is when we made that announcement last week, just that what we had, the expectation of it far surpassed. People really being like, oh my God, I've been looking for this content for years. I'm now going to go watch a workplace comedy immediately. And again, results driven, we saw that those numbers, his content, has quickly gone to the top of what people are watching because he has a dedicated audience. We have the mechanism to deliver his content, and that partnership, that collaboration is what worked well to bring that niche audience to Fuse Plus.
Yeah, big shout out to Kevin Fredericks, Kev on Stage. I'm a big fan. And yeah, we'll come back around to that part, but I love that. Thank you. So we're going to kind of shift a little bit to talk a little bit about the operational and technical infrastructure. Shamroc, I'm going to come to you. What is your, for your team, what does your distribution process look like for what you're doing to market to your niche audience?
So obviously we produce a lot of original programming, and then we also curate other licensing programming. So once we get the content in, we're able to look at it and look at the deliverables and where we can deliver. Obviously promotions through, social. Our areas where we're a little bit smaller than the bigger guys, so we have to do through social, and then delivering through Roku, Amazon, Apple, iOS, etc. Those are the different platforms because we're an app. We're more app-based versus fast and app. So we have smaller deliverables. We do a lot of promotable things through social, actually through YouTube and other areas to get people to where we want and where we make money is through our apps. Yeah. But in that space of creation, there may be also brand integration. So when we're talking about monetizing, we monetize a little bit different than just through the apps. We do a lot of brand integration. That's how we make a big chunk of our money. We're a travel. The Diverseego is a travel company, so we do travel streaming. So everything from hotels where you're sitting in or cars that we drive from Hertz or whatever it may be, we figure out every possible way to monetize ourselves there. And then because if we don't get it on the back end, we at least got it on the front end.
And you also have the advantage, I would say, the advantage and the blessing of being a travel personality yourself. So how was that transition with you as a reporter, a travel correspondent, you tell me the right term, leveraging your own brand to then help launch the channel and then find yourself in these spaces?
I think it's twofold. Sometimes you got to humble yourself and just do it, right? Before when we started the brand, and I'm just going to be honest, like when we started it front-facing, just Diverseego, really pushing the brand, me part of the personality part there, along with other creators. But then we realized that, hey, our content, myself, was pushing a lot of numbers. So I said, hey, you know what? Let me focus in. And my team was like, hey, Shamroc, you need to do more content personally because it's working, So
it was driving the business model.
As the business model, looking at people like Kev on stage, looking at Kevin Hart himself, using other areas where, I worked for other networks, having that content, bringing that content in, finding every possible way to market Diverseego through the lens of Shamroc Peterson. I hate to say that in the third person, but that's just the reality, So so I find that a lot of the world now is that content creators are finding success by marketing themselves, integrating themselves into their networks, and that's going to attract more content creators if you're good, right? So if you're good, people are going to be like, hey, you know what? I see what you're doing. How can I be a part of this? And we were just talking about that, how we do rev shares with our content creators. We find ways to license them and build them out through our own platform.
So you have the revenue sharing component with other people who have brands. You have brand deals that you're integrating into your content. You have the app, and then you also have social media as kind of almost like a lead generator to get them to the app, but also hopefully monetize on it. Did I hit at least 4 of the monetization?
Yeah, I don't know if the numbers, if it's 4, but it is multiple. I think when you're, I think this is what's great about this place here is you're going to have people from a larger scale business and you're going to have people that are just trying to figure it out, right? For us, we have to find every possible way to monetize ourselves, and one of the biggest ones for us was the brand integration, being that I came from a reporting and being a travel correspondent for many years. I was able to leverage partnerships and relationships that I had in the past, bring them into Diverseego, and then be able to maximize them as a brand, then helping other content creators have those relationships with my existing partners that I had from being a travel correspondent and a reporter and such.
That's wonderful. Yeah, thanks for breaking that down. So, Rebecca, as someone who navigates metadata and all the things, and also you're an operations person, so you help people build the infrastructure of their business. How does metadata play a part when it comes to monetization and niche audiences?
I mean, it's everything. Aside from the fact that metadata We'll help you with compliance, and once you're in monetization world, you are in compliance world. So you want to keep your data
Break
clean.
that down a little bit. What does that mean? So I have some
There's
analytics.
a few different ways, right,
Okay.
that you can monetize your content, and a really great way, like Shamroc was saying, when you're first starting out, especially, is to get a sponsor, do brand integrations. And your brands need to know where that content has been, what's in it, who made it, when it published, how many people watched it, and whether it's going to get played again, and whether it got broken down and sent out over social. They need to know all of it. And
I'll say, Rebecca, just to add to that, and just so you know, is that social, what's great about streaming, you're going to have to level up. When you're a content creators, you might start on streaming. That's what we sell our content creators. Like, you're going to be only so far or do so much through social media. When you come on a platform like us and we have this area to create ads and not have to do, and we can do it different, that's where we win. And I think you're making the example is like, we can come in and look at all the numbers and how it works for a brand versus on social media. It's just, you're on social media, you know?
And what you can track, you can manage.
Exactly.
So I think that it is incredibly important from the beginning, and an unfortunate thing is it is also a really easy thing to sort of get in over your head. I think that creators today are a totally different breed of person than the creators of 10 years ago, because they're coming into this with a business plan. They're not coming into it because they love YouTube. They're coming into it because they love creating content in general, and they want to push it out in as many ways as they can. And I would advise as much data as you can get glass to glass. You figure out how to format that, you figure out how to automate that, and you figure out how to track that. And another really nice thing about the maturity of streaming is there are more and more consultants like me that can help you without having to go sign a contract with a gigantic company that's going to take all your revenue.
This is so good. Is this adding some value? Are y'all catching some stuff? Is it okay? All right, cool. If you ain't, save it for Q&A. All right. So when it comes to kind of your operations, now we're gonna do probably about 15 more minutes of us, and then we'll go for some Q&A. Okay. But before we get to the numbers, we'll get to some number ranges. When it comes to the operations and teams, I mean, you have a small business, you're scaling, you're a little bit further along doing some content acquisition, you have a smaller business as well. What do the teams look like? Did it look like when you started versus what it looks like now on your way to getting to where you want to be? And Shamroc, we'll start with you, Rashaun, and then we'll go to Shamroc and then you, Rebecca.
I would say our company is roughly about the same size. I think our priorities and our focuses have changed, and as a result of that, people have then, folks who were working on just TV or selling just TV or programming just TV have now pivoted to now are focusing more on fast. I will say that my department didn't exist when I started. I was in digital doing audience development. My job was to get eyeballs to a screen to watch our content, whether that's YouTube, the TV, social.
You launched during COVID?
Right before.
Right before.
So 2019 was our first fast channel launched. I always joke, I started in September of 2018. I think in early 2019, our chief business officer said to me, "We're going to launch fast channels." I said, "Great. I don't know what that is, but I will figure it out." And over those 2 or 3 years, and then being very early into the space, I give him a lot of credit. We were early out. We iterated. What our first channel was, the channel still exists, but it has changed probably 4 times in terms of content direction, because we looked at what that data told us. And those teams have gotten, in terms of our programming team, that programming team has gotten bigger and more nuanced based on what we know works for the channel. And then in terms of how we market and distribute and work with the platforms, that has grown. So initially, it was just me. Now we're a team of 3 plus our chief business officer. And that's, on the one hand, it's a decent size. Shamroc keeps talking with the big guys. We are a very small fish. We are a small fish in the ocean that is Amazon and Tubi and Roku and MGM, etc. So I appreciate the love, but we just got in a little bit earlier. but
And were you
we're still
self-funded,
there.
or was there investment? Or
The company,
bootstrap?
yeah, it's self-owned. They, in 2019, our CEO took the company in-house and brought in a team of investors, and yeah.
So the rumors about y'all having like a $10 million check to start, that wasn't true? I'm making that up.
I was like,
don't know
not
rules.
that I know of.
Okay, for sure. So but you started essentially with a core team,
Yeah.
and the roles switched around, but you still scaled and from
Yeah, I
that
mean,
standpoint.
we started as a traditional pay TV network. If anyone knows what, remembers Fuse from the early 2000s, music videos, video shows, TRL-esque type shows, and got into unscripted. And then, again, as we saw the world evolving, as traditional pay TV was shifting and where people's attention and eyeballs are going to, we saw those trade winds and kind of followed that into the streaming space. We still have those two pay TV channels. They still do, they still are a revenue driver for us, but we understood that, there are eyeballs out there that are not on traditional pay TV, and how do you go and capture them?
That's good. Team size for you, Shamroc. What did that look like before, and how has that scaled?
Wow. You look back on your life and you're like, wow, where did I start? Like I said, I came from traditional TV reporter, and it was like a couple of, I want to say 3 of us decided to just leave and say, hey, we're going to start a TV show. We saw syndication, initially started from YouTube. When we started in YouTube market, we did really, really well. At the same time, we knew that we wanted to make more money to provide for 4 guys that were taking this leap of faith. Transitioned into syndication, did syndication, and syndication's, again, still traditional television. And then I came to this cool show right here. It was in Huntington Beach, and that was pre-COVID. And they kept telling me, man, you need to get out of YouTube because they're going to start demonetizing a lot of people, and it's not going to have success, and it's not going to be where you can provide and do the big things. And so we started looking into streaming, and started to rebuild the company into more of a startup for us. So we're obviously a travel television network in the front, but we're a startup in the back. So we are built like a startup. We changed our whole business model from just YouTube and syndication and building out just one particular show into building out a network that we wanted to not just have one show, which was mine, and other shows. We wanted to build it out into a robust network. Obviously, that was a little bit before COVID, and anybody knows that COVID and travel, it did not work really well. So we had to then rebuild the company and go through some growing pains and some pivots, as they say in startup. And we made those pivots, and that's where we're coming out of, with investments, with sweat equity and sweat and money and pulling out here, there to make it happen. But it's mostly core of me, along with a team that have different responsibilities. CTO that deals with more of my distribution, the technical side of things. I have a production person that deals with all the bringing in content creators, working with the production, the original programming, etc. Then we actually do a lot of we have a lot of core editors outside of the actual physical team, editors, shooters. We bring them on when needed, necessary, and then we also have a team of people that help us with the building of the business out. So it's still a growth metric that we're just really learning as we're going, but we're trying to do something different, meaning that we're a TV network on the front end, but we're trying to build a startup, a robust startup that's a little bit different than what you may see right now, and where we're going to be going into more of the data play and some of the areas of where we feel that streaming should go.
That's good. Rebecca, I want to come back around to you, but I want to kind of shift a bit to partnerships, sponsorships, and some specific monetization models. So for those who are still kind of growing out here, figuring out their niche, can you talk about the success you've had with brand deals and partnerships? I know I think Shamroc, you mentioned, that's been a very important part to build in branding into the show, into the content. Of course, Rebecca mentioned how it's come from a compliance standpoint. You better do it right, and report it right. But if we're trying to get to the bag and we're trying to scale this thing, what has brand partnerships done for your businesses? And can you give us a range of some of your revenue goals for at least 2026, or where a business of your size should be, right? We're not trying to get the inside in terms of where your money is, but what is an expectation for how a healthy brand partnership would look like? So I'll start with you, Rashaun, and then we'll come to you.
I mean, I think the first and foremost, that brand partnership has to be authentic. It has to be both authentic for the brand and it has to be authentic for your audience. We Fuse started, I'd say I'm terrible with dates. Probably in late 2023, we realized that we had more ad avails than we had impressions for. So like, okay, we are over indexed. We need to find more impressions. We in the fast connected TV space. So we started talking because we have been in the space so long. We had a lot of great relationships with other programmers who many programmers don't have inventory share when they're talking to platforms. They have rev share. We were very early on because we had an ad sales team. We always fought for inventory share when I and others negotiated those deals. So we created what we called the Culture Collective. We got with some like-minded brands who we understood that we all had similar audiences. And again, talking about niche, we work with Tastemade. Tastemade is obviously very food-centric, but there is an intersection of obviously whether it's Latin food, soul food, any kind of food and or travel, there is an audience that is interested in that. So we do multicultural sales for them. Trusted media brands, which has Fail Army and Pet Collective. All of those, again, very lean back viral clip shows. Again, there are overlaps there. We also work with Kevin Hart's Heartbeat on his LOL network, which obviously is a much cleaner and direct synergy of like comedy and understanding that audience. So we brought all of these folks together to say, how do we win together? How do we sell? So currently we sell, Culture Collective sells across 35 fast channels. And that goal is, again, to that branded content experience is how do we get to do a holiday campaign, let's say for Target, that is authentic to our audience, but is also authentic to all 35 channels. And it's agnostic. It's not a Fuse talent doing something. It is, we all agree on who the talent is. We have what the campaign is. It makes sense in these ways, and then you execute. But again, it has to start with that authenticity. And if we can't, I think we spend a lot of time internally talking about what that idea is or what that fit is. And sometimes if it doesn't make sense to us, we don't do it. We don't even, that RFP may go unanswered if we don't think we can bring an authentic perspective to that. In terms of dollars and cents, I'm not on the sales side of the house, so I would love to be able to say. I mean, I think there is, we've talked about, RFPs coming in for $1 million, $2 million on a given campaign. If you get 3 or 4 of those, yeah, you can be doing pretty well for yourself on top of whatever other additional ad revenue you're making and whatever typical deals you're doing. But
and in that very unique, I love that partnership. You're leveraging all the numbers across not only fast channels, but all multiple channels to leverage for the brands you're reaching out.
That's the goal. I mean, there are definitely brands that come in and just say, oh, I want to buy against these channels. More often than not, we try to get you to say, no, you want to buy an audience. So if you're looking for African Americans or Black 24 to 35, sure. Cool. Let's do that. But then we know based on the channel partners' data where that audience is. That you may not think that the audience is on a XYZ Tastemade channel, but they are because they like that talent or whatever. So we have those signals to say, let's push, let us sell. Don't just come in and say, okay, I want that audience. I want LOL and I want Shades of Black, your Black lifestyle channel. Let us help you understand who is the audience you're targeting. Let's help you versus you just coming in and saying, I want to buy the channels that I think make the most sense for me. Let us tell you that story and how we best get to that.
Good. Shamroc, how about you?
I think ours is more on an individual show basis. We usually work with a brand and say, hey, this is how many shows that we can do, and how do we work around what your needs are and our needs are? How do we make sure that in our world is travel, so we may be going to a particular destination. We may be looking at the destination in a whole. We do a lot with destinations and their partners, so we kind of look at it from a larger perspective. Hey, we're here in Santa Monica. Let's stay at the Fairmont Hotel and then work with this particular, restaurant or et cetera. So it's a little bit different on the brand integration for us. It's usually on the show. We've also done a lot with actual physical products, cars, cameras, etc. So we usually kind of scale that on whether it be 1 episode, 3 episodes, 6 episodes kind of thing. And then we also have looked at series and creating series around if it's a bigger brand partnership. So it's more on the individual shows for us, being that we're an app, not a fast channel, which is pretty cool. Like, I think that's really a good perspective of looking at it from the fast thing. But again, what's awesome about when we're talking about niche allows you to do that, because we can come in and say, hey, we're targeting this particular audience. This is a Black and Latino audience, and we actually look at their data, especially when we're talking about destinations. I work with a lot of destinations, and I can call a destination out real quick if they're not hitting a particular niche, right? So especially with the Black and Latino community, we can say, hey, we see your numbers. We can drive more traffic to your destination if we do this particular content. So that's when the brand integration becomes really great for us. The other is when we talk with products. We look at products and where they're going, so we can have those conversations with a particular product or brand and say, hey, how can we work together and drive more traffic to it, so to your particular brand. So it's usually, we don't lose our integrity. We don't lose, like you said, our style, our culture, our flavor when working with a brand, but we do understand what their benchmarks and their metrics they're trying to hit, and how can we work together to make sure we hit that while keeping our flavor, our culture, our style within that content.
And so what are some of, as you're doing that with that revenue model, what are you seeing increase year over year with executing that with, yeah,
I think so. And I think we've definitely seen it. And that's allowed us to then bring in more partners. Obviously, being smaller, we were able to look at the numbers and say, okay, and then we were able to bring those numbers to other brands and said, hey, this is what we've done. This is how we're doing. This is how we increase. And especially, like I said, for us in travel, we can definitely go directly to the destinations and their partners and say, hey, this is what we're doing. Versus, not to say anything against the influencer who's just using social media, we have a bigger, we have more eyeballs and on a larger scale from, in other areas than just the social media.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Rebecca, I have a question for you, but I'm going to do see if anyone has any questions first, and then we'll come back, because we want to talk about what steps should people take if they want to transition to be a brand in a business, and what kind of infrastructure should they have? What kind of questions should they be asking in terms of metadata they should be tracking to really monetize? So that's the question. Hold the thought. And we're going to come in. Does anyone have any questions? Yes. I don't know if we have a mic, but we do have a mic. Please speak into the mic, and then we'll go from there. Yes, it's on the way. Nah, just talk.
Question for Shamroc and Rashaun. I want to dig a little deeper, if you would, on the brand partnership sponsors and advertisers. When you're talking about production, what is the point of contact? You deal with the agency, you go directly to the brand or the sponsor, and then what's the business model? You say, I'm going to do 6 episodes, it's going to be $200,000 an episode. I want you to put up all the money. I want you to put up half the money. How does that math work?
I guess it's me more because I'm on the production, right? So I'll say it for us. It depends. We look at every brand and destination for us, and we kind of talk with them. We have like an in-house, like 3-6 episode kind of scale that we work out. And then we also say to them and say, hey, this is what we can deliver and what we can't deliver. We're honest with ourselves, and we also wrap in the marketing dollars. So we wrap in a lot of different areas to help push that content. In reality, sometimes you have to buy those eyeballs. So we say, hey, this is what you can get for this amount, but if you do this amount, we can buy you some eyeballs that are going to drive traffic directly to your destination, and this is the result we believe that we can do. Anything else? Did I answer that kind of in that
is
perspective?
where's the point of contact?
Oh,
Directly with
the point of
brand?
content, and maybe there's a lot of different ways. We work with different ad agencies, and we actually work with agencies that represent destinations or brands, and we work with them. I come from the world of that I've kind of brought some of my contacts directly, and those relationships are mine personally, so I can actually call a destination and say, hey, destination. I can call a brand, and I have like we have a brand now that sponsors a lot of, stuff like cameras and things of that nature, a lot of operational costs that, people can't get, so being I had that relationship for over a decade, it's easier for me to be able to say, hey, company, I need another camera. I need more of this, and it's like, okay, how do we work that within that branding relationship?
For us, we have an integrated marketing team that's based out of New York. So, and they get RFPs from agencies. They also do some direct deals. RFP comes in. It's funny, Terrence asked about the size of our company. So, our integrated marketing team is 4 people, but they will get, okay, the RFP comes in and this is what they're looking for. We will gather people from across the company. You don't have to be in integrated marketing. I've been in many of those meetings where it's like, okay, Rashaun's into sneakers. This is the RFP for Nike. Let's call him in, and we all sit in a room. Here's the RFPs. Here's what look at, and literally we just brainstorm. We brainstorm that idea. The integrated marketing team will take 3 or 4 ideas back to that client or to that agency and say, hey, what do you think of these? And if that idea goes, then it goes to the next step, and then we'll work with our production team. They build out a budget, and then it kind of progresses from there. We do most of our branded content is in the advertising space. It's a commercial that has talent in it with the product. We also have done some integrations into in-show content when and where it makes sense.
Do CPMs come in play in what you're describing?
Yes, sometimes they do. Sometimes it is just we're trying to get as many impressions as possible. But yeah, we do typically work on a CPM because they also most often those deals also just include spots and dots ads as well. So it's like, okay, we did something with Doritos for our cooking show. So we did the branded content, but we also had Doritos ads running during that series. So yes, the CPM was tied typically to that ad, and then the branded content was additional on top.
And I'll second that because that's a selling point, again, going back to Rebecca said, is that we can create ads from content. So we do a lot of ads with them. So it's like that's another selling point that when you're on just social media from a content creator standpoint, you don't have that ability to do that. We have ad space. We can place ads. We can create ads. That could be part of that brand deal.
Rebecca, do you have a perspective or knowledge?
I have some knowledge, which is a small shadow of what these gentlemen have. So you have heard the A+ grade version of it.
Any other questions before we go to our final answer? Oh, yes.
Hi, I'm directing the question to you. I didn't see your name. Shamroc. When you do your ad platforms, I have a 12-channel entrepreneur streaming network that I'm launching my own show on. And I work a lot with sponsors and advertisers. And what they really want to see when you're launching a brand or a product, whether it's a consumer or a technology product, they want to first see the demographics, target audience, then they want to see if you reach them, and then if you have a streaming platform that has a following. And if you're just starting, what would you recommend? Like, if you don't have all those elements, and you don't have the talent, but you have the content and you have the connections with the companies?
Our first thing I asked is, one of the things that helped us is our distributor, that helps us get the content out. They were one of the earlier players that helped us really understand, having those conversations, what to do, the mistakes. But the reality is you're going to make mistakes. And I think it's just to start. We're still in that early stage streaming component. And, the guy sitting next to you knows that, it's just, you got to just start, learn, take the numbers, redo it, reformulate it. And it's going to be a lot of burn. I mean, that's just the startup world. It's like you're going to burn through a lot of sadly cash and burn through a lot of hours of just learning. But as long as you have a group of people and meet people like this and ask questions, don't be afraid to ask questions. I mean, I've been, ever since I met this guy, I'm like, hey, how do you do this? How do you do that? Because that's the only way you're going to learn. And I think, by next year we'll have a different type of, I'll have a different result if you continue to just start, and so I can just say it's just really just working with whoever your distributor is. If you have a distributor that you work with, I have a really good one. They help me understand what I need to do, how to do it. Don't do this. This is how it's worked with other companies like your size and how they've done things, and maybe try this way. Because I was going this way and they say, hold on a second, you might want to go this way.
I'm working with major network, but I also am self-distributing. So that's what the question.
Yeah, the self-distributing part of it.
Self-distributing, and I've worked with major top brands because I've worked with major top world-class sport events. So I have those contacts. They all want, what's your streaming platform beta, but more importantly, what you're following. How many subscribers or followers do you have?
Yeah, I think also the secondary to that question is that that's one part, but if you're making quality content, they know it's going to work. You know what I mean? You got to continue to just feed the beast, as they say, and the beast will grow. and that's what it's worked with me, and like I said, the person next to you will attest to that. It's just been one of those feed it, grow.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, this is great. I know we're about at time. Somebody's got a bell ringing there. But for sure.
Somebody else heard that.
Yeah.
We all heard it.
Like, what is that sound?
Yeah, but I want to give the last word to Rebecca. So if someone wants to start their channel, what are the key things that you would advise them on in terms of counting up the cost per se, things that they should consider if they want to launch their brand and monetize?
We have entered a really wonderful place, I think, in the history of media, and that there's no limitation of bandwidth. The only limitation is market share. And that means that it's tough for sure. And I have deep respect for anybody who's running fast channels right now. It is a tough business. But if you are just starting out, you can still do it, and you can do it without getting into debt. You can do it without stepping on the landmines that everybody else has. There's really just kind of two quick things. One is, and Rashaun and Shamroc both talked a little bit about integrity and authenticity. The first thing you want to do before you pick up any of it is your own strategic alignment. Who are you as a company, not as a person? And make your North Star something that you want to stick to even when it's hard. And that's how you know your values are in line. Think about what you want to do without involving technology or vendors or everything in the conversation too fast. What am I trying to do? Where am I now? Where do I want to be? Think about your data. Think about your teams. Do I want to hire a vendor? Is this just going to be me? Do I have partners? And then think about your technology integration. And so there is sort of a holistic snapshot that you want to have, particularly when you're first starting out. There are so many amazing tools. I know small networks that are operating basically on Google Drive and Box. Like, it can be done. And I mean, there are sections of Amazon that are still operating on Excel sheets. You would be surprised. And that kind of brings me to my second piece of advice, which is something that I started when I started integration therapy, because I'm running it as an actual solopreneur venture rather than just as a freelancer. I got on LinkedIn and started looking at the people who are great at things that I'm not good at, like B2B marketing. And I started writing them, and I was like, I can't afford to be your customer, but do you have 30 minutes? I just need a mentor for 30 minutes. Yeah. And 80% of the people say yes. So don't undersell your own network.
That's awesome. Please give it up for these three great panelists, Shamroc, Rashaun, and Rebecca. Oh, yes, you have something else?
I just want to piggyback. I'll say, since we're talking about niche, stay authentic. That's it. Mm-hmm. That's it. Stay authentic. And that's how you win, right?
Absolutely. This is great. They'll be available. Will y'all be available for questions over here for the people? Okay. And also shout out to Rebecca. This is her 10th panel today. She's been doing a lot. So you've seen her around, but great job. Thank you all so much. Wonderful.